Hi, I'm Dr. Sridhar Kalyanasundram, consultant neonatologist. Welcome again to my channel. Thank you for subscribing, keeping your notifications on, and thank you so much for sharing as these videos are useful to many of your colleagues as well. In the past two videos in the ventilation series, we had discussed basic introduction or overview of ventilation, and in the previous video, we discussed the different settings that are available, the function of each of the settings, how it influences your ventilation or gas exchange. So in this video, our aim is to look into modes of ventilation and synchronization. So we have the conventional modes, including the CMV, the SIMV, SIPPV, Assist Control PTV, which are the same names for SIPPV, PSV, SIMV, PSV, Volume Guarantee, and we will look into each of these as well. So CMV and IMV are less used names these days, and continuous mandatory ventilation or CMV is used more often in paralyzed or apneic patients where there is no spontaneous patient effort. The ventilator rate is usually set faster than the patient's own breathing for obvious reasons. However, the CMV has gone out of vogue. Most of the ventilators came equipped with continuous flow, which allows the baby patient to breathe in between the ventilators. So for the past 30 years or so, we have continuous flow, and CMV is a word which is not much used in ventilation. The intermittent mandatory ventilation is where the ventilator rate is lower and the patient gets a chance to breathe spontaneously between the two controlled breaths. So both aspects are included. So the backup rate is there and the patient can breathe in between. So synchronization is not intended in both these modes, and I keep telling my residents, if you're briefly sedating or paralyzing a baby and you plan to wake them up, it doesn't matter. SIMV works like IMV in these babies because there is no spontaneous effort. So rather than switching between modes, you can start with the same mode. It's just a defunct option which will kick in when the baby starts waking up. Synchronization is a very important concept to understand, and it just means that the ventilator breath is delivered in sync with the patient effort. Significant advances have been made in the sensor and microprocessor technology as we will look into the various trigger options. There is a definite improvement in clinical measures of synchrony. So people have struggled to show a benefit in terms of research and studies. Outcome variables are difficult to interpret, as we will see in the next presentation. And we can definitely see a reduced need for sedation, and after we got the synchronized modes, most units have moved away, including ours, from routinely sedating the babies on ventilation. Poor synchronization causes the baby fighting with the ventilator, so the breathing is out of sync. Since we are not sedating the baby may breathe against the ventilator. There is increased work of breathing again because of this lack of coordination. There is abnormally high intrathoracic and intrapulmonary pressure surges when this happens. There is also reduced venous return when the baby breathes out when the ventilator is giving a breath in, for example. Increased intracranial pressure is a side effect of this fighting as well, and barotrauma from the unpredictability of the whole situation. The muscles of the baby may not be trained optimally, so weaning may be difficult. This is because the coordination doesn't happen. The baby doesn't understand how the breathing happens in a sync. So when we think of synchronization, there are three main parameters. The trigger mechanism, what is the mechanism which causes the breath to begin. Limit variable, which regulates the gas flow and the pressure delivery during the breath. And the cycle mechanism, which causes the breathing to end. So in terms of the inspiratory trigger, which is basically the sense, the signal for the breathing to commence. Time is a trigger in most ventilators. There is no patient interaction, and the pressure can be a trigger where the pressure transducer senses a drop in the pressure with the patient effort. So the pressure transducers in the routine ventilators are usually at the ventilator end, not in the patient end, and so there is a signal delay. The flow, as a trigger mechanism, is very commonly used. It works very well, and it's based on a pneumotachograph or a hot air anemometer. So here the sensor is at the patient end, and all of you might be familiar with the sensor in the dragger, for example, where it's a hot air anemometer. The heated wire, the temperature drops as the baby starts taking a breath, and this is sensed. The chest impedance leads were used previously, and they're still used in non-invasive modes. However, they're not very accurate as artifacts may be there. Abdominal movement by Grace B capsule has the same disadvantage. The most sensitive is the diaphragmatic activity or EDI, which is picked up by the NAVA based Mackay ventilators. So it's quite an advanced mode. It's very useful if you apply it, but the cost effectiveness needs to be debated. So looking at these aspects, the choice of the ventilator comes in, and many times the choice of the ventilator that you make doesn't depend on a single factor. The cost may play a role, the local experience may play a role, availability of support may play a role. So the maintenance mechanisms, how much of a contract, a flexible contract the ventilator company offers, the cost of the disposable equipment is very important. As I said, the team being familiar with the ventilator is a very important factor. Most ventilators are reasonably advanced. The microprocessor speeds have increased, and the volume guarantee and other advanced modes are available as well. Some ventilators have the high frequency, which is of a satisfactory quality. And previously with the Draeger, we had the Babylog, which wasn't very effective in the bigger babies, but now the Draeger has a new ventilator which improves that. The SLE ventilators are good for high frequency as well. Standalone high frequency, the advantage is it can be used in older children as well, like the Sensormedics high frequency. However, most neonatal units are moving away from using standalone high frequency because of the cost and other factors, and these ventilators which I mentioned with the high frequency works quite well as well in the bigger babies. Mackay again has a NAVA option, and we have so many other ventilators which I'm not mentioning just for sake of time, but familiarize yourself with the machine that you have. Fine tune your approach to it depending on the alarms and especially the volume guarantee modes, what setting changes you can make to make it work, and disseminate the information to your team as well. The NIPPV option is coming up in most of the new ventilators as well. So in terms of the trigger mechanisms, what can be the problems? So one is the lack of response, where the trigger threshold may be too high or the sensitivity of the trigger device is too low. Antiphasic trigger, where in case of wrong placement of the capsule is Grace B capsule, for example, a trigger signal can be generated during the expiratory phase. So this results in antiphasic ventilation, is similar to the baby fighting the ventilator. And auto triggering can happen where the ventilator can automatically trigger without the spontaneous breathing. So this will happen if your flow threshold is kept too low, if there is movement artifact, ET tube leak or water in the circuit as well. So this can cause auto triggering and auto PEEP, we call it endogenous PEEP, which causes over distension. So avoid this, and excessive triggering can be a factor, especially if you are using the assist control or SAPPV mode of ventilation. We can have a delayed response time. The effective response time of the ventilator is the trigger delay and the system delay. So trigger delay is the time that is necessary to recognize the inspiratory effort when it reaches the ventilator, and then the ventilator sends a trigger signal. It depends on the sensitivity of the sensor, the setting that you have kept for the trigger, and the data processing rate, and usually it's 5 to 100 milliseconds depending on the position of the sensor, the ventilator efficacy and so on. System delay is the time taken for the internal data processing and time for the pressurization of the patient circuit. So the ventilator receives that signal, it then has to react to it. So this is the reaction time. Usually it's 25 milliseconds or less. This is a comparison of the common trigger modes that we use. So flow is the most commonly used. There is a quick response time. It's highly sensitive and it is non-invasive as well. So we should remember that the flow trigger, you need to adjust it to the baby's own size and what you expect to be the response of the inspiration to the baby. It can be affected by leak and added dead space and weight. This, however, is not a big problem with the modern flow sensors. We used to have flow sensors being affected a lot by humidity and failing quite often, and as I said, it's expensive as well, and so we have to look at options to minimize that. In terms of pressure sensors, there is no added space or weight, and it is not invasive. However, it's at the ventilator end, and so there is a longer trigger delay and lower sensitivity in the smaller babies especially. And neurally adjusted ventilatory assist or NAVA is from the diaphragm. There is a fastest response time. It's not affected by the leaks and highly sensitive. The problem is that the probe positioning is more difficult, as the EDI probe has to be in the exact positions, and we have to adjust based on the electrical activity. The probe cost is significant as well, and it's an invasive mode as you need that catheter, though it's like a feeding tube as well. In terms of the limit variable, most of us use the pressure limited ventilation, and volume guarantee is coming in as a very important addition, as we will discuss. However, the pressure limit is the main option we use. Volume limit is not widely used as the leak from the non-cuff tubes make it difficult to consistently measure the volume, and there is a limited experience in the neonates. What causes the breath to end? So in all ventilators, if you set the inspiratory time, it will end the breath. The flow support modes, the flow is the end mechanism in the pressure support modes, as we will discuss. And volume target can be mode in the adult and pediatric ventilators as well. So looking at the various modes, so we have different names, as I said in the beginning: PTV, SAPPV, assist control, they all stand for the same mode. Every breath that the baby takes and the flow sensor triggers is supported with the PIP and the PEEP as set on the ventilator. So the rate belongs to the baby unless the baby is breathing very slow. The backup rate, of course, is fixed, and it's usually below the baby's own respiratory rate. The inspiratory time in this case is fixed by the physician. Weaning is done by reducing the PIP because the rate is the baby's own rate. You can't wean the rate. If the baby is excessively tachypnic or if auto triggering happens, we may end up giving abnormally high ventilated breath. So each breath that baby triggers receives this PIP and PEEP that you set. Suppose you have set 20/5, each breath receives 20/5. So you may end up over ventilating. So this illustrates this small beep here is the baby's own inspiration, and then the breathing triggers the ventilator breath. And if the baby is apneic, for example, there is a pause, and depending on the inspiratory time, and once that cycle is crossed, it triggers the ventilator breath. So it works in cases of apnea as well, depending on the backup rate. And as every breath receives a ventilator breath, there is a risk of overventilation if you're not watching it. SIMV is an adaptation from SIPPV to remove this over triggering. So it delivers a preset pressure and rate while allowing the patient to breathe spontaneously in between the ventilator breaths. So each ventilator breath is delivered in synchrony with the patient's breaths, and the patient can breathe comfortably in between the spontaneous breaths. We can give some pressure support in the SIMV with pressure support mode, which I will discuss as well. So work of breathing and respiratory muscle fatigue increase if you have a low parameter SIMV, especially in the small babies, and that's where using the PSV with SIMV becomes important. Suppose you have set a rate of 30, the baby is breathing at a rate of 60, the baby is actually taking quite a few breaths without any ventilator support. So you can use the PSV option to overcome that. And in terms of how the SIMV works, you can see here that the patient's breath triggers the ventilator breath when it falls within the cycle range. These spontaneous breaths are not supported by the ventilator as it's out with the SIMV rate. And when the next breath is due, it waits for some time for the baby's effort to start, and then it delivers. If the waiting time exceeds the set inspiratory time, the ventilator takes over and delivers. So in case of apnea, it will still deliver. It's a mandatory cycle. So SIMV is quite a good mode. Only caution is that you may consider using it with PSV. So in pressure support ventilation, it's assist control but flow cycled if you use pure pressure support ventilation. In this case, expiration is also synchronized, and when the expiratory flow drops to say 15 to 30%, you can keep that setting as you wish, and then the breathing is terminated. So both the inspiratory time and the expiratory time are supported by the ventilator. So the baby will determine the breathing rate as well as the length of the inspiration. So PSV with SIMV is quite a good advancement, where the SIMV is used and you can wean the degree of support that the spontaneous breaths of the baby gets. So the baby's own breaths do not go unsupported, but you can determine the level of support. So gradually you can wean that off, and then you can wean the ventilation easily. So the PSV mode works only for the non-SIMV breaths. So here it's similar to PSV, both the I time and the expiratory time are regulated by the baby, but for the SIMV breaths, the I time is what is set. And flow cycling, as I said, applies for the SIMV breaths, and you can set what level of peak flow should be reached for you to trigger the expiration. Usually, as I said, it's 15 to 20%. Volume guarantee is quite an important advancement, and most of us are using the volume guarantee modes given there is a lot of evidence. This is more important, obviously, to avoid overventilation in the acute phase, example following surfactant. And if you're watching carefully, if you're weaning quickly and extubating, volume guarantee may not make a big difference to your outcome. So in a unit where things go by protocol, everyone is watching everything, the mode of ventilation doesn't matter. Quick extubation, use of non-invasive modes, if these are practiced, evidence is difficult to show that each mode is different. So it's not worth breaking your head over the mode if you're doing everything correctly. Volume guarantee becomes an important mode where you let it run on its own, and so you're not watching and titrating the pressures accordingly. Then avoiding over ventilation reduces the BPD rate. So the ventilator delivers a specified tidal volume with the lowest possible pressure, and the preferred mode to use volume guarantee is pressure support ventilation. And when the mechanics are rapidly changing, it becomes complicated, and there may be very few breaths supported, or very few, the PIP may be quite low, so the delta P may drop quite quickly, so the lung may close down as well. So soon after surfactant, for example, we notice in some ventilators that the delta P is very low. PIP is 11 or so, and the PIP is 6, when you would expect the baby to get a little more, and the baby is working hard. So such parameters need to be monitored and adjusted. If the leak is high, do not use volume guarantee as well. So in the other modes of ventilation, the preset parameters may deliver the volume, which may be excessive or inadequate in a rapidly changing clinical setting. In the volume guarantee mode, the ventilator analyzes the volume achieved and the pressure needed to achieve that volume, and we target the new pressure which is needed for the predefined set volume. So the most important thing is to be familiar with the ventilator you are using. The target tidal volume should be appropriate for the disease condition. So the current concept is that in the more severe disease with stiff lungs, don't flog the lungs, accept 4 to 5 ml tidal volume per kilo. And once the lung improves, for example post surfactant, and you see the ventilation improving, you increase the tidal volume target to 6 ml per kilo. So in a stiff lung, don't use a high tidal volume, which can be harmful. Frequent alarms can be a problem if you don't have the settings right. You have to allow the peak inspiratory time to reach a certain range. You have to allow the inspiratory time to be reaching. So usually your settings are higher than what you would have, but these are the peak settings which the ventilator can use for the sigh breaths or if needed. So you have to get experience and change your settings accordingly. So thank you for watching this. In the next video, we'll discuss non-invasive ventilation. I hope this is useful, and do subscribe and share. Thank you.